All this ideas sound like high people ideas. Like, he doesn't think these things through before he tells us. He just tells us what he's thinking as soon as it occurs to him. This shit sounds nuts. I'm gonna go to China, and I'm gonna get those jobs from China and bring them back here to America. For what, nigga? So iPhones can be $9,000?
This is what Trump is all about, and this is why we love Trump.
First off, your reaction, and what could you tell us about the China deal that has tariffs dropping from 145, 125 respectively to 30 and 10?
This is an extraordinary first step in the right direction.
Stop it. Y'all got to get Trump 2028. I don't think he can run a third time, but his legacy, every election should be Trump 20 whatever, Trump 2030 something, because his legacy will continue for. I think it's absolutely asinine to suggest that Donald Trump is trying to erase black history. That's the craziest thing ever. D.L. Hughley don't have any evidence whatsoever to make a claim like that.
Well, also tonight, the Trump administration is ordering signs and exhibits related to slavery be removed from multiple national parks. That's according to our partners at the Washington Post. It is part of the president.
It started like every viral storm does. A single clip, a few sharp words, and the internet lost its mind. Dave Chappelle, in his raw, unfiltered brilliance, called out a truth so uncomfortable that even his fans sat in silence. He wasn't just roasting someone for laughs, he was exposing something deep, something dangerous. He spoke about how people will sell their own authenticity for a little spotlight, and that some of the loudest voices in politics aren't driven by passion, but by profit. Within hours, people connected the dots. Clips of Officer Brandon Tatum started circulating. His speeches, his contradictions, his over-the-top defenses of anyone in uniform, no matter the story. People said Dave wasn't just making jokes, he was describing this man. The timelines flooded. Every platform turned into a courtroom, and Tatum was suddenly on trial, not for a crime, but for credibility. Brandon Tatum didn't start as a YouTuber. He started in uniform, a cop from Tucson, Arizona. The badge, the discipline, the authority. It gave him power and a platform. But when he left the force, something shifted. He realized the internet was hungrier for opinions than justice. Around 2016, during the first Trump wave, Tatum reinvented himself as the bold, black, conservative voice, telling it like it is. He didn't whisper his support, he shouted it. And that was rare at the time. Few black men publicly aligned with Trump back then, and that made Tatum valuable. Conservative media saw gold. They didn't just amplify him, they turned him into a symbol. See, they'd say, we're not racist, we've got Officer Tatum. And for a while, he played that role perfectly. The TV hits, the interviews, the merch, everything worked. He became the face of a movement. But what nobody noticed back then was that every time the camera cut off, the lines blurred between conviction and performance. Once Fox News got a taste of him, Tatum's image went from former cop to poster boy. The networks loved the narrative, a strong, black man rejecting liberal lies. He became their favorite proof of progress. But behind the scenes, something darker was happening. Tatum wasn't just sharing opinions. He was being molded. Producers told him which topics would hit harder. Political consultants whispered what sells better. His takes became more dramatic, more polarizing. He learned that outrage gets clicks, and clicks bring cash. Suddenly, everything became a performance. He went from saying, police reform is necessary, to claiming the police can do no wrong. From talking about empathy to mocking victims. His words shifted, his tone hardened, and people began to wonder, did he still believe anything he said, or was he just acting for the algorithm? The man who once called for balance had turned into a caricature of the system he used to critique. Then came Dave Chappelle. He didn't say Tatum's name, he didn't have to. In his monologue, Dave spoke about black figures being used as shields by those in power. He said, they don't love you. They love what you represent for them. The audience went silent, then erupted. Online, people immediately began linking those words to Tatum. Memes flooded X, TikTok, and YouTube. Officer Tatum, the real-life Clayton Bigsby, they joked. referencing Chappelle's classic sketch about a blind black man who unknowingly becomes a white supremacist icon. It was cruel humor, but it hit home, because deep down, everyone understood the metaphor. The sketch wasn't just comedy, it was a mirror, and suddenly Tatum was staring right into it. The backlash wasn't just mockery, it was awakening. People began questioning who he was behind the camera and whether he even recognized himself anymore. What came next was a digital earthquake. Users started digging through Tatum's old content. They found contradictions, flip-flops, and stories that didn't line up. One clip had him condemning police abuse. Another had him defending it. He'd preach honesty, then twist facts in the next video. Receipts poured in. Someone even pulled up his statements about the Sonia Massey case, where he justified an officer's killing despite evidence later proving the woman never attacked anyone. That was the moment things broke. Comment sections turned brutal. "You're not fighting for truth," one wrote. "You're fighting for your sponsors." Others said, "You don't sound free, you sound owned." The tide turned fast. The same crowd that cheered him started booing. And instead of reflecting, Tatum fought back, calling his critics jealous, hateful, brainwashed by the left. But the internet doesn't forgive hypocrisy. It archives it. At this point, people weren't asking if Tatum was wrong. They were asking why. Investigators, bloggers, and creators started connecting dots between his channel's sponsors, his messaging, and political donors. Patterns emerged. Whenever a certain PAC or media group went viral, Tatum's content seemed to align perfectly. Same tone, same timing, same message. It became clear his takes weren't spontaneous. They were synchronized. Viewers realized the outrage was orchestrated. And once money enters the story, authenticity exits. The man who said he was just speaking his mind now looked like a paid actor reading lines written by someone else. Even some conservatives began distancing themselves, saying, "We can't trust his motives anymore." That was the real tragedy. Not that Tatum changed sides, but that he turned his voice, his story, and his integrity into a brand for sale. Tatum's collapse wasn't sudden. It was slow and public. Every new video brought more criticism, every live stream turned into damage control. His tone got desperate. He started defending himself instead of discussing issues. 2-hour rants about fake news and haters replaced meaningful dialogue. You could hear it in his voice. Frustration, fear, fatigue. He said he wasn't owned by anyone, but his eyes told a different story. He looked like a man trying to convince himself. Meanwhile, Chappelle's fans kept resurfacing the Clayton Bigsby jokes, remixing them with his latest clips. It was brutal, but symbolic. The audience had turned him into a meme. And once the internet decides you're the punchline, it's almost impossible to rewrite the joke. What makes this story sting is that it's not just about one man. It's about a system that loves to use black faces to sell white agendas. The same machine that raised Tatum up now pretends not to know him. They didn't love him, they loved how useful he was. They loved that he said what they couldn't say. He gave legitimacy to ideas that would sound racist coming from anyone else. That's why they boosted him, protected him, praised him. But the moment the backlash grew louder than the benefits, they went silent. No networks defended him. No sponsors spoke up. They moved on to the next voice, the next puppet, the next officer to prop up. That's the cycle. Uplift, exploit, discard. And every time, the person at the center believes they're different. Until they're not. In one of his recent live streams, Tatum looked straight into the camera and said, "Y'all can't cancel me," but his face said otherwise. The comments were ruthless. "You already canceled yourself," one viewer typed. That's the moment it clicked. He wasn't fighting haters anymore. He was fighting his own reflection. Every contradiction, every denial, every flip-flop had caught up. He had become the symbol of the very thing he once mocked. A man lost in performance. And yet, there was still something tragic about it. Because underneath all the ego and money, you could still glimpse the man who once believed in something real. But the internet doesn't care about redemption arcs. It cares about entertainment. And Tatum had become exactly that. entertainment. Now, the question isn't whether Brandon Tatum can recover, it's whether he ever truly existed outside the role. His story isn't about politics anymore. It's about the danger of letting fame rewrite your identity. The danger of mistaking attention for respect. Dave Chappelle's words ring louder now than ever. They don't love you. They love what you represent. Maybe that's the real message. The problem isn't that Tatum chose a side, it's that he let that side own him. And when the spotlight fades, what's left? A man arguing with his own reflection, trying to prove he's still relevant to a crowd that's already moved on. So maybe the real question isn't what happened to Officer Tatum. It's what happens to all of us when the performance becomes the person.